Hey there. Before we jump into today's episode, we want to thank you for tuning into Unapologetically First Gen. This is the podcast where two sisters share what it's like to grow up as first-generation immigrants, everything from the hilarious moments to the heartfelt ones. Each week, we'll bring you personal stories, honest conversations, and amazing guest interviews that celebrate the first-gen experience. So if you love laughing, learning, and feeling connected, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with your friends. It really helps us grow. If you want to contribute to episode topics and get exclusive content, join our Patreon linked in the show notes.
Hello, I'm Stacy, the younger sister. I'm a former teacher turned copywriter, cat mom, and slightly obsessed with romantasy books.
And I'm Leslie, the older one, operations expert, home baker, mom to 2 kids and a bunny.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Unapologetically First Gen. Today we're diving into food, and specifically to start us off on this conversation, we both watched a documentary last week on malasadas. Leslie, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so for the non-Portuguese listeners, malasadas are kind of like fried dough, except we do they could be plain or with real sugar or sugar and cinnamon. We don't do the carnival powdered sugar, just sort of something kind of light, or maybe not light since they're deep fried, but airy, airy. And just a little sweet, amazing with a hot cup of coffee. That's malasadas. Malasadas Days is a documentary that talks about the community coming together and celebrating our culture with malasadas. So they talked to the church, the leaders in the church that had organized it. They talked to the women who had spent the entire week prepping and then making, I think it ended up being 8,500 malasadas, and people come and they'll stand in line just to get their malasadas. And the important piece of this isn't just, it's not about the food itself, it's about preserving the culture through food. That's what Malasadas Day is about. It talked a lot about the older generation being the ones who run this event and how the younger generations are just not quite there yet. They're not participating in this, and there's this question about, how do we continue our traditions with the next generation? Is it possible to keep our culture and our traditions alive with the next generation? And like any good documentary, it doesn't actually give you an answer. It asks the questions and it gets you thinking. And we've been thinking about it for about a week. And so we decided, let's talk about food as part of culture, as part of our culture specifically.
I think what's interesting about Malasadas Day is that, I think a lot of the older women, and this is what we saw in the documentary, a lot of the older women are the ones holding the culture and creating it. But back in the Azores, it's not just the older women, it's everyone. All of our cousins who are our age are going to the church. When I was there, they had a Malasadas Day. I don't remember what the holiday was, but all of the cousins were together at the church making malasadas, and then they sell them. So it's interesting. So I don't think the culture is being lost over there. It's just being lost here. And so what do we do about it?
Yeah, but it's easy to keep the culture there. You're living the culture. It's not, you don't have to make an effort to have or to hold on to the culture.
Because that's true.
It's your entire experience. Whereas here, you really have to work at keeping the culture alive. I said this to you, too, after we watched the doc, and it's something I've been thinking about since. Watching it made me a little bit sad because I'm not religious at all. I don't have a church. I don't go to church. And I think that because of that, I'm missing out on a huge part of the community. I hope to find a better way to be connected to my community that doesn't involve religion. But religion is a big part of the culture. So it's a little bit difficult to do that. And I will go to the festas, which are organized by the church. I will go to a malasada day, which is organized by the church, but not attending church, not sending my kids to Sunday school. It really keeps me on the outskirts of the community in that way. I really have to strive to find a place in it, and that's something that I'm actively doing.
Yeah, and I think that it's tricky because in some ways it's harder for us to engage with our community because of gentrification, because the whole Portuguese community has left where we grew up. It's harder because there's just less people around that used to be around. And then the other piece too is I do think there's other opportunities like Boston Portuguese Festival. That has been huge in the past few years, and I feel like there's more and more people every year, and it's this really cool event to be able to take your kids and be like, hey, let's have our Portuguese flags waving around. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Growing up, it was really the church. It was all the events surrounded the church, and so it's hard to find things outside of that. Mm-hmm. Especially because not all of our family isn't part of the church.
No, and we have quite the spectrum. We have some people who are attending church regularly, and we have some people who don't go to church at all. We have people in different religions now, who sort of moved away from the traditional Catholic church. You know, now that you're talking about gentrification, it really is twofold, right? I lost the church community, and I lost the neighbors and the people, which is part of the reason I've said this in another episode where I get super excited when I find someone who speaks Portuguese and I engage with them. That's so hard to come by.
It's interesting too because it's also connected. The idea of gentrification, it really affects the food part of it because almost all of the Portuguese restaurants have left the community. Mm-hmm. Almost all the Portuguese shops have left the community. And so those are the places where, like, when I'm craving the Portuguese cereal that I love and only eat in Portugal, that's where I go. And now it's like I have to drive 90 minutes to get to a store that's like out traffic to go find a Portuguese store where I can buy these things. So it's like that makes it harder to access it makes it harder to access the parts of the culture.
When you were talking about not having access to the stores, I immediately thought of that cereal. It's like, oh yeah, where am I supposed to get my Choco Peak now?
It's funny because our parents are at the Azores right now and they're leaving soon. And I'm like, should I text them right now so that they definitely bring me back some cereal?
Do you know what's funny? When I thought of it, they had been there for long enough that I think it would have been too late, but I was going to text them to be like, don't bring back toys for the kids. Bring them back some treats, some yummies. Bring them back cereal. Bring them back
Squid.
Yeah. Yeah, don't bring them back things that...
Okay, so I think because we're saying biscoito, we should talk about what are biscoitos. I definitely have lots of memories of biscoitos in my childhood. So biscoitos are cookies, but not really like sweet cookies. They're kind of like,
I think biscuits would be.
I know, but they're not like Southern style biscuits. They're more like cookies.
Like lightly like sweetened.
The way that my husband describes it is like a cross between a cookie and a cracker. It's like perfect for dipping into your tea or your coffee. But I have memories of like their specialty biscoitos that happen on different islands. And so I have memories. There's these ones called biscoitos de orelha, and which are ear cookies. We would go to the Azores where they make these and just like stay up all night with our cousins who are making these to sell and learn how to make them.
Yeah, I have really fond memories of hanging out at that co-op that makes them just all night and learning how to twist the dough to make that unique shape that they're a part of. We'll have to post some pictures on our Patreon of what these look like for people who are curious.
Yeah, and some links of where they can buy them.
Malasadas Day had the owner of that Portuguese store, so we should link his store in our show notes, and you can see why we don't regularly buy the Portuguese cereal. It's not cheap.
Well, and with tariffs now, it's going to be like $15 a box.
Yeah, it's gonna be like $15. Yeah, I thought of that. I'm like, oh gosh, we gotta
Stock up. I'm going to take an empty suitcase to the islands just so I can bring a full suitcase of cereal back.
You'll get stopped at customs. They'll be like, "Are you planning on selling these?" You're like, "No, this is my personal."
I'm not planning on coming back here for at least 6 months, and I need to have enough cereal.
Like, these are my rations. If any of our listeners are going to the Azores and they live locally, they can bring you back a box of this cereal.
That's true. What are some of your all-time favorite desserts?
That's a good question. God, there's so many. Mom's a really great baker, so we're just bombarded with desserts on holidays. I like the masa, which is like the Portuguese sweetbread that she makes. It's phenomenal. We did not have it this past Christmas, which feels a little sacrilege.
Did we not? It's a lot of work for our mom. So she like wakes up, and this was part of the documentary on Malasadas Day, how they make the malasadas, but it's similar for the sweetbread, where like mom kneads the dough, and then she wakes up like in the middle of the night to like make sure the dough is rising appropriately and knead it more if necessary, and then she spends hours the next day baking all of these doughs and delivering them to all of the people who want sweetbread. So she probably bakes like 6 or 7 loaves at once.
Mm-hmm. She does more than that. I would say probably closer to a dozen. Because they're on the counters, in the kitchen, then they get moved to look at the dining room table so that they all fit somewhere and get packaged up, and then we can get to deliver them all over the place. And people come over to just have warm, fresh sweetbread.
Ah, that's the best. And it only happens twice a year, so it's like you really relish those 2 times because it happens at Easter and Christmas.
If she's not making it this Easter, I'm going to ask her if I can make it.
Well, it would be, you should learn to make it so one of us can carry this tradition.
We have made it together a couple of times now.
Okay.
So I think I could do it, but I would need notes. Like, she does it all in her head.
That's what's tricky. It's like so many of these traditions are just held, they're not written down. They're like oral traditions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they say that in the documentary too, that, you know, if you want the traditions passed down to the younger generation, you have to communicate what the traditions are and how to do them and move them down. Like the malasada day recipe is a closely guarded secret, and the younger generation's like, yeah, well, I hope to get to know what it is, and it's like, you got to pass it on. You're not going to be here forever. But I get why the older generation's like, you know, this is a sacred thing for us, and we don't know if you're going to actually carry this on. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I got to talk to her. The other thing is the price of eggs is so high that it might just like not be feasible to make it this year.
Oh, that's really sad. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I know. I think taking a moment of silence is probably okay. It's sad. You think like you can't hold on to your traditions because they're getting too expensive.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about desserts, and I think that part of it is because Mom is such a great baker and she loves baking, but we haven't really touched on real food. Of Portuguese food, what comes to mind?
When I think of Azorian food, I think about fish dishes, I think about cod.
I was going to say bacalhau is like the first thing I think of.
Yeah, like that, like cod, potatoes, a lot of root vegetables. I think of those
turnips.
Things. Turnips.
Red meat and potatoes, or pork.
Yeah, like steak, pork.
Chicken is not as big because chickens are mostly used for eggs on the islands, and so you take the eggs, you keep the chickens alive, versus, at least on the island we're from, beef cows are a huge industry for them. But what I actually learned this past time, I was talking to a professor from the university on the islands, and he was saying that most of the other islands actually have dairy cows as like their main industry, but our island is like one of the last ones to have beef cows, and it's like actually a lot easier on the workers to produce beef versus producing dairy. Milk and cheese is also a huge part of the food culture.
Milk, cheese, and bread.
Oh, love. What a perfect breakfast.
I know, and I don't even eat cheese, and every once in a while I'm like, you know what?
It's so interesting. I don't eat dairy, but I do feel like European dairy makes me less sick than U.S. dairy.
That's interesting.
When I went there this year, I didn't have any trouble being dairy-free. It wasn't a challenge. I feel like here, American food has so much cheese on it, like all of the time. It's so hard sometimes to get dairy-free food. Like, to give an example, when I order a hamburger in the Azores, it is straight up just a hamburger. Your options for hamburgers are hamburgers, cheeseburgers, or egg burgers, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is a burger with an egg on it. But like, if you wanted a cheeseburger, you would have to ask for a cheeseburger. Versus here, when I order a burger, I have to ask for it without cheese every single time, without question. It just automatically comes with cheese. And so it's just like a funny cultural difference where, like, yes, cheese and dairy is important in the Azores, but it's more like as an addition to bread, as a part of your breakfast. It's not like every meal has cheese in it.
Yeah, I was actually trying to think as you were talking, and I think that it really is often confined to breakfast stuff, like bread with cheese, not as like, we don't have like melted cheese on top of things.
No, and people like would make lasagna, but it's not like...
But that's not really like Portuguese. That's, been picked up. It's not really... Because I don't remember having lasagna until I was older.
I think lasagna was one of the foods that Mom started making when you and I became vegetarian, which I am no longer, but you still are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we should definitely talk about that. So being vegetarian is another sort of barrier to celebrating my culture. We just talked about how the big important foods are, meat and fish and stuff like that. And I do eat eggs, so that's great. But going there, when I'm there, my diet is literally like potatoes, rice,
bread and
eggs,
butter,
and then a limited amount of cheese. Just because I also have to be careful with the dairy, and if I'm gonna have dairy, I'm gonna wait for dessert.
There is dairy in dessert, though. There's a good amount of cheese in dessert, like cheesecake things.
But are those Azorian things, or are those Americanized versions of things?
I think they're Americanized versions of things that just happen to run through our family.
Yeah, this is just kind of a funny story. When we went there several years ago, we were at a restaurant. I saw a vegetarian burger on the menu, and I was like, "Oh, what's on this burger?" And he was like, "Oh, it's eggs and vegetables." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great. Like, I'll have a veggie burger with eggs and veggies." And what he brought out was just essentially an egg sandwich. It was bread with eggs, lettuce, and tomato. And I was like, "This is just an egg sandwich. Why is this called?" But that was the burger, was an egg sandwich.
That's so funny. I will say this past time that I went there, I did see more veggie burgers and things like that because takeout is becoming more common.
What?
Yeah, and so there's this new place on the island that is specifically a takeout place, and they have burgers and chicken fingers, and I did notice that they had a veggie burger on the menu.
Is it a veggie burger or is it an egg sandwich?
I did not order it, so I don't know for sure.
I'll have to. Can someone who is in Santa Maria please order the veggie burger from this new takeout place?
It's in the Villa. You'll know it.
Yes, the only takeout place. And let me know if it's good. Two, is it really just an egg sandwich?
Well, it's funny when I was there because one of our cousins who's married invited me over for dinner, but they couldn't remember which one of us was the vegetarian. So they were freaking out because they were like, what are we going to serve her for dinner? It's actually really cute because our cousin's wife found a new recipe and it was basically like a pad thai type recipe. And she got zucchini and ginger and was like, didn't know how to cook with the ginger. And I'm like, here's how you do it. But it was really nice that she was like trying to make something. She's like, is it okay if we put shrimp in this? I'm like, yes.
You're like, I'm not the one.
Well, she was like, I almost made a lasagna. And I was like, it's good that you did it. Because I actually can't eat lasagna, but I can eat the pad thai.
That's so sweet. It's funny, when we were there last, I was so hesitant when people invited me over for dinner because I didn't want to be so inconveniencing. So I'd be like, sure, but don't worry about me. I'll eat. I'm here for your company. Like, I'll eat, bread and butter. Like, I'll eat pão e manteiga. Just pão e manteiga e vinho. That's all I want.
I think it's hard too because part of the culture is the older ladies like taking care of you. So part of the culture is you go to somebody's house and you're going to be this really great host and give them all of the food they could ever want. And those ladies take it real personal when you don't try their food. It's rude almost to be like, oh, actually, I don't want to eat your food. And even when I was there this last time and I was having lunch at one of the aunts' house, she's like, oh, you still love Tia's food, don't you? It's just like their way of showing love and receiving love.
It is. One of the aunts found out that I really like the soup she made. She made this amazing veggie soup. I ate that soup, I think, every other day while I was there. It was delicious. I was so happy to do it. If I could have, I would have brought it on the plane and brought it home with me. It was so good. But she was so happy when I tried it. And she was like, I made it without meat just so you could try some. And then she was like, oh, this isn't enough to fill you up. What else can I make for you? And I was like, no, you don't understand. This soup is so good. I had like 3 bowls of it at dinner while everyone was eating like fish and potatoes. And I was like, can I get some more bread? Because I want to dip. I loved dipping. It was so good. I can't believe I haven't thought about that soup in years. But when I go there, I'm going to have to call ahead and be like, can you make that soup that you made that one time when we were there last? Oh, I just realized as I'm saying this that one of my kids has a food allergy, so now I'm going to make it even more difficult.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to think.
I guess it's not, his allergies aren't really big in the food culture, but I also think that food allergies aren't really well known, so it'll be really hard to.
I think the challenge would be like processed food. Food, like home cooked food, wouldn't be that hard. I don't think any of those ingredients are things that people regularly use in their cooking.
True. I mean, I think processed food's going to be an issue kind of anyway, as we found out with that cross-contamination issue that landed our kid in the emergency room. Those things happen, and we're prepared for them, so.
That's all you can do.
That's all you can do. I want to talk about mom and dad's diets growing up, because we're talking about this fish, meat, potatoes, these very rich and often heavy foods that we eat. But this wasn't how our parents grew up. We've talked about this, that they grew up in pretty extreme poverty. Mom's family was a little better off, but I don't think that means much when you're talking about extreme poverty. But they were effectively vegetarians, like forced to be. They couldn't really kill off their animals. I believe Grandpa had dairy cows, so having fresh milk was part of their diet. And I think that when we're talking about food and how our parents grow up, we both probably have the same story that comes to mind. They had chickens who laid eggs, but they would sell the eggs. And they wouldn't keep them for home unless it was your birthday. And you were lucky that the chickens laid enough eggs, because then you got a special birthday egg for your birthday.
It's so sad.
It's so sad. And my dad said he would just be so happy to get a hard-boiled egg for his birthday.
And it's so funny. My most prominent memories of grandma are her frying me up some eggs, and it would be like, hey, go outside to the chickens, grab your eggs, and then she's gonna fry up the eggs that you picked. It's that same thread of love. The egg was a gift for your birthday, and that was still the way that grandma was showing us love as her grandchildren decades later.
I'm sure it's probably just the way I remember it, not actuality, but I've never had eggs as good as those fried eggs that Grandma made us.
No, the eggs there are way, 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 way better than the eggs here. 1,000%.
I mean, they're just fresh. But oh my God.
But they're not just fresher. The chickens are cared for differently. The eggs there are the same as the eggs here when you buy pasture-raised eggs. The yolk is a different color. You can tell that they're like well-treated chickens. But we also did get some fresh eggs the last time I was here, and they were spectacular.
It makes me so nostalgic thinking about those fried eggs.
Yeah. One moment that I had when I was in the Azores this last time is our grandma on mom's side used to always have these cookies, Blasha Maria, and I spent my childhood eating these cookies. I would crush them up in a bowl, pour the milk in, and then eat them. Regular snack. But so I was at the grocery store and I saw the cookies, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to get some. I'm here. I was reliving my childhood through the grocery store with the cereal and now the cookies. I went old school. I crushed them all up in a bowl, put some milk in it, and literally took a bite, and it just like transported me to being 7 years old, sitting in Grandma's kitchen. It just felt like I was there eating that bowl. It was so nice.
I know. All this talk about food really makes me miss our grandmothers. It's very nostalgic, and it really makes you think about how rooted food is to culture.
It's funny, I didn't think we'd have this much to talk about, and here we are, still gabbing away.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about the bread, and I was like, should I just go bake some bread? I make like grandma's bread. I mean, the only thing I don't have a wood-burning stove, so it's not as good, but I think it's a close second. And the best compliment I ever got was our cousins being like, this tastes like grandma's bread.
Oh, that's so nice.
And it's like, you couldn't give me a better compliment than that on my bread. Unfortunately, it does take literally all day to make, so.
Unfortunately, that is the downside of all of these like special cultural desserts, is they take forever.
Yeah, I can't just whip up a loaf of bread, but man, I would love to have a really nice slice of warm bread with melted butter on it, with a hot, not even a cup of coffee. You know what would be really nice? A hot cup of chocolate milk. The mornings that were like really chilly, it wasn't warm out yet, and you were up. Your grandmothers lived higher up on the volcano, so the mornings were very foggy, very chilly, and you just sit in the warm kitchen and have these warm desserts. I loved it when they would come and sit next to us, and you can feel the warmth emanating off of them.
Oh, what a nice memory.
Yeah. If your grandmothers are still around, just go hug them.
And if you are listening, definitely let us know about your food traditions on our Patreon. If you haven't joined our Patreon, it is free to join unless you want all of the behind the scenes stuff, in which case you can pay a low monthly membership fee to buy us coffee and help fund the podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time. If this episode resonated with you, or you have your own first gen stories to share, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on Stacy Braga Copy or Streamline with Leslie on both Threads and Instagram, linked in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share the podcast with someone who'd love it. Until next time, keep embracing your roots and making your own path.